Hello, hello, hello.
Hello.
Look at that amazing office you have there.
Thank you. Ditto.
First of all, are your teeth? Are you feeling okay?
Yes, I'm feeling fine. It was a lesson for like taking care of things you need to take care of with yourself. So I have a retainer I've had since I was like a teenager. It's like permanent on the inside of my bottom teeth. And at my last checkup a couple of months ago, they were like, oh, this one end has become loose. Like you need to go get it fixed. And I've been putting it off because I was like, well, it's going to take a long time. I don't really have time for that. And then last night at dinner, it like completely like disconnected. So there's like glue on it. So it's not like poking me or anything, but it's like movable in my mouth on one end. So that's all it is. So I called.
Gotta take care of that.
Yeah. So I was like,
I'm glad you were available right now. I told Cheyenne, I was like, look, because I thought about it. I'm like, I don't want to like make a new podcast, like, and I don't want to rush to like, so if there's a way we could find, but I was like 6:30 a.m. If there's a way I could not have to do it at 6:30. So this is great.
I know. I'm so glad to. I felt so bad. I was like Karening it up with the dentist. I was like, there has to be another time.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, now I just want to confirm you're actually going to fix it and it's not going to be a consultation because I have to move something very important. And they're like, we will fix it. And I'm like, okay.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I think it's kind of good. One of the things that I was going to do this afternoon was like prep and plan. A lot of times I like take time, but then I'm like, oh, like because this was sort of scheduled last minute, I left my mastermind call early to like do this. So I'm I left 10 minutes early and I have like 4 notes. So no.
It'll be very natural. We'll be in our authentic selves.
I feel like I'm and what's so interesting is like, you've never gotten coaching on a live call, but we've just connected a bunch on Instagram.
Yeah.
And you've like really applied the program.
Yeah.
And so I just think it's going to be great and we're going to riff.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. I had to go back and I was like, I need to summarize things. So I have little notes. So I'm like,
perfect. All right, good. I've got my little notes. You've got your little notes. Between the two of us.
Yes.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
All right. You feel ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything that's like off limits?
No.
Okay. Yeah. I just like sometimes people are like if there's, I don't know. Cause I think you had a sort of like dark night of the soul experience. I would say. So I'm just like, sometimes people are like, this is touchy or like, I don't want to. And also if we touch on anything, we have podcast editing. So like,
yeah, I'm not worried about it.
Perfect. All right. Well, then let's just go, shall we?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, and I forgot actually, Cheyenne set it up to record, so I don't even need to hit record.
Yes.
So we will just go in. I will announce it. Okay.
Awesome.
Let's do this.
Okay.
All right. Melissa Lawrence, welcome to the show.
Hello. I'm so happy to be here with you today.
I am so happy to have Melissa here with us. She joined, was it 6 months ago at this point? 5 months?
Yeah, it was October. I had to look it up.
Okay. All right. Nice. Yeah. It's now that the program's been open for a little while, I'm like, I can feel into, and your transformation has been so incredible. And I want to dive into all the pieces. So before we get into that though, I would love for you to just tell us who you are, what you do, and a little bit about your frequency.
Okay. So my name is Melissa Lawrence. I'm the CEO of Your Worthy Career, and I'm a career and leadership coach for women that work in the pharmaceutical and biotech industry. And I help them have the career that they want to have. So as far as my frequency, that was a bit of a journey and something really fun to discover, but
we're going to talk about it.
Yeah. So, but how I would describe it as, kind of an Egyptian cheetah goddess, which sounds really woo to me to say, especially for the work that I do, but that really embodies the work that I do, which I'm sure we'll talk about, but then also just who I am as a person, being very like bold and colorful and like deep and rich in colors, authentic, an advocate, so many things. And I'm so happy that I'm so clear on that now, thanks to this wonderful program.
Yes. Yeah. And I want to sort of click into, it's funny, I was trying to find think the first time I became aware of you, I don't know if you messaged me from a different Instagram handle or something, but I was trying to find, you messaged me and I just remember you said, basically, I don't remember, like I had come into your awareness and you were I think you were already in a 6-figure business, right? Like you were printing money.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I was
Okay.
getting there. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So like you're in that space, but it didn't matter because you were like, and tell me if this phrase feels right. I think you had said, I feel like I have to keep coloring in the lines.
Yes. That's
Was that what it
exactly
was?
I said. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So like, tell me a little bit about what that was like, because I think a lot of people, and I like that are earlier on in their, no. Like once I get to 6 figures, once I get to multiple 6 figure, like that's when I'm going to like feel free. And I'm like, no, we actually have to liberate ourselves along the way. And I just feel like you've had one of the most incredible transformations in the program. And sometimes it can be scary when we're making a bunch of money to rebrand. So I just like, can you just double click into where you were in your business, in your mind and body, in what your brand was, and then like what really drew you into the program?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So I was at the point that I was about 6 figures, a little bit over. And so that's usually the point where for me, I was like, this is where I'm going to say that I made it, that my business is successful. And it was, but it just felt like something was a little bit off. Like there was just something a little bit missing. Like I was playing by rules, but I didn't know what the rules were. And that's what was really confusing for me, because a lot of the work that I do and just who I am is all around like authenticity and embracing everyone and inclusion and all of these things. And so it's not like I was intentionally hiding who I was, but I didn't know what it was that was missing. And so it felt like I was like coloring in those lines, kind of like your boxes that bind training that you have, where it was like, I felt like I was just like constraining myself and I didn't really know what was missing. And so it was so frustrating, because all I knew was something was missing. My business wasn't really feeling like mine. There was something missing between what my clients were saying, the results they were getting, and what I was marketing. It just like, but I just couldn't pinpoint it. And so it was so frustrating, which is why I reached out.
Yes. That is like, again and again and again, I just hear so many people, they're just like, something just feels off and I can't quite pinpoint it. And so you like felt in, would you say was coming into the accelerator, was it like a mind, like strategic decision? Was it more intuitive? Like what was your decision-making process coming in?
Oh, that's such a good question. So I had looked you up. I had become aware of you. I had started like looking at what you had online. And then you had the Kingdom Creation course. And I think you had like an Ask Me Anything. You had something on your Instagram and I had messaged you and you had directed me to that course or to that class.
Yeah.
And so I took that and that was like mind blowing for me. Like I was telling people about, I was like, this, I just took for free. And it just like opened my eyes into like, you have the framework or the solution that could help me figure out what's really missing.
Yeah.
And so it was very quick from the time that I found you on Instagram, took that class within like a day or two. And then I listened to some of your podcasts and I was like, yep. And then I just had to kind of decide that this was something that I really needed for my business, like despite anything else that I was doing, that I really needed to figure out what was missing for me so that I had a business that I loved and and then I could be like in integrity with the work that I do. And so it just was like a no-brainer for me.
Yes. Okay. Yes. I love that. So I think I'd never heard that piece of it. I remember you said like the coloring in the lines. And then the next point I became aware of you was, and I don't want to scare anybody away, but like, there are some people that come in and I would say it was a spiritual awakening. I don't know how you would categorize it, but like you've had a dark night of the soul going from the caterpillar into, I mean, if we don't, I guess like we probably will have some sort of like snippet of this on Instagram. Like, so you'll see Melissa's background, but like what I have, who you have emerged as, right? You just have such a powerful before and after. And so I would just love to hear a little bit about like, if you want to revisit it, because I think you said it was like one of the harder periods of your life last year.
Yeah.
Was working through that.
Yeah. And I think part of it So it was hard for a couple of reasons. Like one was this, like, I can't control what's happening right now. Like
Yeah.
I'm a problem solver and like I just want to do what needs to be done and like
Yeah.
work on my business, and this shouldn't be a problem because I don't know what the problem is. And so there was that really frustrating piece of trying to force it out of me. And then there was also this piece where it was almost like a sadness of a realization that I wasn't as in integrity as I thought I was, that I'm like the role model and like the trailblazer for these women that I work with around authenticity and showing up in your work as you, and not trying to be like broski tactics and be like the man and all of these things. And then it actually, like, what really helped was when I started going through the office redesign, because I couldn't pinpoint what it was that was missing, like anything I could grasp. And so I started going to something tangible, like I can change my curtains, I can change my paint.
Yeah.
And so I just started using the somatics and the stuff that you do within the accelerator to use my body to help me decide, like on Pinterest, what I was really feeling called to. And then it was like really crazy how that happened, because I really just started like letting my body decide and my intuition decide, and I decided nothing was going to be off the table, and I just started pinning things, and then kind of the theme for my office emerged, and then that really helped me clue into like what my frequency was. And then you and I had talked a little bit about helping me kind of figure out what that was, because I was trying to do that kind of masculine, like I'm going to sit down and I'm going to coach myself into figuring out what this is.
Yeah. What's that?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love that so much. And it is, I do feel like in the program, we have tools for like, we do mind, but then sometimes I think, especially when there's people who are like a lot in the mind, it's so useful to have another set of tools to go in through another angle. And then once you went in through the other angle, which I love for you, it was like the office redesign and then some of the somatic pieces, then you're like, oh, okay, now I see what I need to actually use mind tools to align my mind with.
Yeah. And like the biggest, I share this with my clients. I had a whole like coming out party for my new brand, and like sharing with my clients, former and current, like what was going on, is that my wall color in my office used to be agreeable gray. Like literally that was the name of the paint color.
Agreeable gray.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like that's why that office redesign was so profound for me, because right now I have like a cheetah wallpaper on one wall, and I have this like shattered glass art on the other, and I have purple, and I have all these like royal colors, and I have a lot of gold, I have all these other things, but I literally had like agreeable gray and like whatever office things I could find in the house I could repurpose, and generic like floral tops I would wear, and just things that like were not really me, but I was trying to be palatable to everyone, thinking I needed to be this like serious coach because I was working with serious people.
Right. Because it's like executives in biotech and
it's like scientists, PhDs, directors that work in, a corporate industry.
Right. And I think it's like, it's so normal. Like, I feel like so many of us are conditioned to be like, oh, okay, like who is the client? And then let me almost reverse engineer like who I should be to be like attractive. And what I have seen that has just been I remember we went back and forth on Instagram, because there was a little bit of like, you were like, I'm afraid I'm going to like lose some of those people, or that this puts my niche at risk. And we coached on it. And I like have goosebumps just thinking about it.
Me too, actually.
I couldn't even cry. Right. But it's just like, you went all in, you're like cheetah goddess, purple background, like beautiful velvet, like I can just feel you, right? Like I can just feel you, right? And for anyone who is realizing they have an agreeable gray or like the floral top or whatever, right? Like, can you just share a little bit about what it has been like in your business since the rebrand?
Yeah. To like collect myself, I feel like we both were gonna have a crying moment just there.
What do you want to say there? Like, do you want to like, because I mean, listen, I'm not trying to rush us on. I just like, it's really scary, like because I think what the accelerator is, it's like when we find our deepest truth, And then we have to be really honest. We're like, I'm scared I'm going to be abandoned. Like one, it's either like I'm going to be abandoned, people won't like me, or when it's our business, it's like the money will go away. My actual security could be at risk. Like that's a big like that's scary.
Yeah. And that's when I also was saying I was going to maybe drop my niche and be more general. And I think that might be something down the road at some point, but that was something I think that was also coming from this fear, which you had caught on. I'm so glad that even though I've had a client, whenever we have the calls in the accelerator, I'm always able to go into the community and you always give me like a prompt or some coaching or something that like helps me see where I'm letting that fear still drive me. Cause it is a journey. Like I know my frequency, I know the work that I'm doing. I mean, I changed my company name, all of these things from this work that I did, but it doesn't mean that I'm not still overcoming the 40 years of conditioning that I've had, but now it's so much easier to trust myself. So now like I kind of know when those like shadows are coming in or when it's not really me, and then I just have to kind of bring myself back to no, this is who you are. But you had asked about like my business transition, right? Like how it's been with my.
Yeah, because I think it was like and I remember you were like posting in the group. First of all, I do want to double click into Melissa has never been coached on a live call. Like she's had this insane transformation just because like, I guess you said you have a client call. Like she shows up in the community. She's like, I'm going to get what I came for. And so, having coached and engaged with you, it was like this, I'm afraid I'm going to lose them all. Or I think it was like, and it was like, I can't remember what the other specifics were, but then it was like, oh my gosh, no, I'm going to do it. Right. And I think for you, it was like the office transformation. Like, this is what I'm aligning to. This is where I'm going. And then let's get your mind on board in all the ways that some people might not come. And that's okay.
Yeah.
But that even in your niche of like PhDs and biotech and pharma, like there's going to be so many women that are like, cause do you know how many women with PhDs in biotech and pharma that are like, I'm surrounded by agreeable gray because I think I have to do this too. Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
And like, it seems like that was sort of my guess, or I think that was like something that I gave you like to consider, was just like, how many women in your niche are you going to liberate by being willing to go first? And I haven't actually heard like the juicy specifics. You just said like, I know there was a day like you hit 200,000 and you posted in the group and like everybody we're like, because we'd all seen you go through it. Right. She like posted when she was like, I'm having a dark night of the soul. Right? She posted like when she was having trouble, and then to see this triumphant butterfly emerge, it was just like, I think for the community, it's so healing to be in the community and to like see people at different steps in the process. And I could cry again, but like we've seen you go through the whole thing.
Yeah. And I think so I did have that fear of this, my industry isn't going to accept me. And then it was almost like this coming to of this is why I left the industry, because I worked in the industry for over a decade and I left because for a lot of reasons, but one of them is I just never felt I fit in. I felt I wanted to do bigger things, that I had a different mission. I wanted to have a bigger impact. And I think being myself, which is like a cornerstone of the work that I do with my clients, is helping them be themselves in this like really kind of stiff industry, helps them be themselves. Like it is that going first. And I do remind myself that I'm going first, that when I'm bold and I'm sensitive or emotional or just myself, it allows them to feel okay with however they feel too. And I think it's only brought in better clients for me, because before I was coaching people that weren't a good fit. Like they didn't want to do really the internal work. They just wanted the career strategy. They wanted to be very serious. And that isn't really a good match for me. And now people coming in are like, they love kind of the way that I show up. They love everything I say. They binge my podcast. Like they love my take on things. And I think it's just been so enlightening. And when I had this like launch party where I decided I was going to it was like new cover art, new company name. And I talked on the podcast about this change that I was making. And I had these people come on. I felt so vulnerable. I cried with all of these past and current clients that I had on there. And they were all so supportive because I was explaining kind of why I made the changes and how much I care about them and like what it all meant. And they were like, of course, like, yes, we've seen this the whole time, because they had been in that container with me for several months. And so they saw the real me and as a coach, and not just what I was putting out in marketing, which was like, you know, very palatable colors, things that like biotech pharma uses in their logos, like
like a
like
blazer.
that.
Like I remember your old podcast cover was like it was sort of like the podcast cover version of Agreeable Gray.
Yes. And that was me like being risky in that photo shoot, because that one was a step up from my first one, which was like really like blazery, and this one was like, I'm outside, I'm sitting in a parking ramp with like a LaCroix. I'm so risky.
And now it's like deep purple background, like gold. Or are you changing? Because you had like also an amazing photo shoot recently, so there might be like further future selves birthing. But
yeah, I did have a really good photo shoot. I had like the gold cheetahs, and I had sequins, and I had all of these things, and I was like, this isn't what a career leadership coach generally looks like, but this is how I look like. And the people that are attracted to me, they love it. And I've had people actually come to me that are like, okay, I kind of already have done some of the work that you help people with, but I want to work with you. Like there are other people that maybe are more closely aligned. Like maybe they're looking for more life coaching or more other things. And they're like, but you're who I trust. You're who like I want to work with. And so they just sign up with me anyway, which is really amazing.
We need to pause for that, because I'm just like, I don't know how many times I have to say, like this program, it's like people stop coming, like they're not trying to buy leadership or whatever coaching. They're just like, Melissa, like, what are you selling? Because I just want to buy, like how you're showing up in the world. I just want to buy that.
Yeah, I think it creates trust. I think when you're pretending to be someone you're not, even if you don't know that you're doing that, then you just are a generic version of everyone else. And then people want to have more relationships with the people that they're buying from, especially now that like coaching is so big. Like you can find a million people that do what you do. So it's really about who you are and like why they would choose you. And that's going to be good for both of you when you're really yourself.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's like, I just love that this work. It's like so healing for ourselves, because it's like, oh, wait, my path to making the most money and differentiating myself is healing all of the shit that I think I have to hide, and all of the reasons why I think people won't like me, and all of the things about me that are too weird or too big or too, I think you had a little bit like I'm too big or too bold or something.
Yes. Yeah. And that's one of my values. And that's like what I embrace now, is being bold and reminding myself that that is who I am.
Yeah.
Because I had also like in my personal life, like with my wife, the people that are really close to me, they would say like, you're not being yourself in your business. Or like I have teenagers and they'll listen to my podcast sometimes and they'll be like, you're not sounding like yourself on your podcast. So they were kind of telling me this whole time, like there was something missing. And I was like, no, this is me. This is just how I am at work. And then I realized that like, they don't need to be different.
Yes. Oh gosh. Mic drop moment. Yes. Like, I just love it. Like we are just in this era when they don't like there. And I think it's in the collective, it's been conditioned for so long that we all have to sort of put this mask on at work. And I do think there is some, like, I think it was my client, Sarah Edie, I had on the podcast recently, and she was like, I am in for the Instagramification of LinkedIn. Like LinkedIn sort of seems like the last stone to fall, but even there, it's just like the collective is finally catching up to like, this is just going to be the new paradigm. Like I am who I am, who I am, who I am. And maybe there's different parts of us that the volume comes up or down, right? Like, I don't know, with your children, maybe there's an aspect of you that is more amplified, right? But it's like your conscious decision of expressions of yourself versus I have to color in the lines.
Yes. And I call it kind of like situational presence. That's how I talk to my clients about it.
Yeah,
it's
so
like,
good.
As a mom at work, if you're with like a vice president versus with a peer, you know, you're still you, but like the dials you turn up and down are going to be different.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
So I'm curious because you said you think you're like attracting in better clients now from the rebrand. So like what has I guess before you said they were a little bit more interested in like, let me just get the strategy or whatever. So like because this is like, it's your vibrational point of attraction, right? You changed your brand, which changed your vibrational point of attraction in the marketplace. And now you're attracting in a different type of client. So who is that type of client now? And why does it make your workday and your business more enjoyable?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is having some self-awareness that they are responsible for their results, good or bad.
Yeah.
I think that's really like the generic answer to that, or like the really high level general answer to that.
Yeah.
Because before people were like, other people are a problem, or just tell me the tactics to get this job, or tell me the tactics to get more money. Everyone else is the issue, where really like the importance of the work that I do isn't just in kind of that glass ceiling that like is in corporate, but really that glass ceiling we have on ourselves.
Yeah.
And like having some awareness that that is there, and like really dismantling those things that are holding us back, and having the courage to go after what we really want, even if it's not what makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. I love that so much. So I'm curious then, because you've had this massive change in your visual brand, but obviously like, and we could double click into this, but like, it's because the patterns that exist in our closet and the patterns that exist in our office, like they're showing up in our marketing, right? So I'm just curious, like, has your messaging changed to reflect the boldness, right? Because like, I think that's one thing that I've visually seen is like, it's much bolder, much richer. And so I'm curious, like, how does that, if we were to sort of like energetically feel into the layers down, there's like the aesthetics, right? But then underneath the aesthetics, if you've activated bold, I'm just curious if there's other places where you can see like, and this is how I've like sort of called in a totally different type of client.
Yeah, I think I don't filter as much. So I don't try to make it palatable, like that agreeable gray. So I say the hard thing, even in my marketing, not just in the coaching calls. So I think that's one piece of it. And the other is I speak more to the deeper work that I do. So before I was like, I'm only going to talk about those like money results and, you know, the new job results, and not really talk about the thought work that goes into that, or the confidence that people build, or the kind of doubt that they had and the overthinking and all of that. And so I talk about that a lot more. That's a lot more prevalent in my marketing.
Yeah.
And so it's just filtering people to come through that, acknowledge that that's going to be part of the work that we do. So I very rarely get anyone reaching out to me that doesn't want that work, and it's not just as important as the other work that they're doing in their career.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love it so much. So there was sort of this transition of like the boldness that was expressed in your visuals became more bold in your marketing, and like your clarity around like, this is like, because I remember actually we went back and forth on Instagram one day, I think, and you were basically saying that like you would sometimes attract people that didn't want the inner work, right? Like to what you're saying, like they just want the strategy, they just want whatever. And I'm pretty sure I asked you, I'm just like, when we see a pattern, we're part of it, right? So it's like you've cleared all of that from you, and then your transmission is so much clearer in the marketplace. And now the quality of client that is coming to you is the kind of client that it's like the kind of calls you love, getting out of bed and seeing on your calendar.
Yeah. And the story that I have about my clients is so different. So when I was doing that, I was telling myself, in order to make money in my business, I need to be selling a result that results in them making more money, or them getting this tangible thing like a new job. They don't want to hear about confidence. They don't want to hear about, you know, their glass ceiling. They don't want to hear about their doubt or overthinking. They know those things are true, but they don't want to hear about them. They just want this other thing. And so I just proved that wrong. And so I can tell you like so like financially, I went and looked when I knew we were gonna have a conversation, because I was just curious. I was like, what has my income been in the last 6 months, like my revenue compared to the 6 months before? So in 2022, my revenue was $70K for the year.
Yeah.
And then in the last 6 months, it was $160K. Yeah. Yeah. And then the previous 6 months was like $90K. So it went up from the $70K a year, but it's like been monumental in the last 6 months.
Oh my.
I know, I got chills again.
I feel like this is just like a whole, we're like goosebumps and cry. Like, cause this is like a financial, I think it is sort of to your point. Like, I love the money results, but I'm like, but in alignment, right? And so there's so much of what I'm talking about in the accelerator.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, I could just cry that you're just like, this is what it was before. And then I just like became me. I became sharper. Like, I'm sure your sales cycle has shortened. People know exactly what they want. They want to work with you specifically, and you're making so much money.
I know, that's why it's so meaningful, because I really was telling myself like I needed to be more palatable to make money. I needed to sell these generic things, and I don't.
You don't. You make so
No.
much more money when,
Yeah.
but I think that is for us. It's like we're so scared because you look and feel very different than an executive biotech and pharma coach. It's like, who cares? Like, this is so boring.
Right?
Right? You're like, no. Like, this is my niche. I can help people there, but I'm the person that is I like bring excitement. I bring life. I bring boldness. I bring richness because it's who I am. And we can let that be downstream into any industry we fucking choose.
Yeah. And it helps with your marketing just like organically, because before I would, there's a way that I teach and a way that I coach that's not aligned with like this, like when you were like, oh, the biotech person, right? That's not like that. And so I felt kind of incongruent when I would do something in that industry where I would do a workshop or a webinar or something, because I was like, it needs to be a certain way. I can't do it looking like this and have them expect something, and then I'm giving them something very different. It just felt very misaligned. But now I go in, like I did one in February, and I go in as me, and then I teach the way that I teach, and they're like, oh my gosh, like we don't get anything like this here.
It's
this
so
is
different.
amazing.
It's so
but they
fresh.
like expect different, they see different, they get different, and it's good. They're getting results from it.
Yes. Oh my God. I'm sure like you just feel like like inside of a house with no windows open. It's like all the windows open and it's just like fresh air.
Yeah.
Right? Like that is what you bring into like everyone you're touching.
Yeah. And I don't see like lines anymore. Like when, like, just to like talk about the beginning, I was like, I feel like I'm coloring in the lines. It's like, now I just like step over them. I don't care. They're like irrelevant.
Yeah. And and I love this as a thought. Like every time I step over a line, I'm about to make more money. That's like right. Cause I think it's like for us, it's like, and I think right now, sort of in human history, like Brand Alchemy, it's because so many people are in the boxes. So it's those of us who are brave enough to keep stepping over the lines. And like, the thing is, we get further and further differentiated, but then it's like, if we can be willing to be apart from the boxes, it means people can see us so much faster. They can feel us so much. Oh my gosh. I'm just so happy for you.
Yes. Yeah. It's been a crazy, I can't even believe it's only been 6 months. And it all happened so quickly too. It was like October was my office, and then November was something else. And then by December, I had like the whole new company name. I knew who I was. It was all very quick. And then I've just been implementing the last few months.
Yeah. And here's actually one, I feel like we should double click into this for a second, because one of the things we talked a little bit about how for you, it was like, you were like wanting to like control the process. And we've had a couple people since, I think you were even on the thread, but there was like another person, I think she was like in 100K in her business, and she came in and she had it was a very similar pattern to you. It's like, okay, I gotta figure out the brand. And it felt like this very mental thing. And I was like, the faster you release control, right? And because I feel like, especially when we're working with alignment with the soul, it's very quantum. And things can come in really fast. And so I remember for you, you were trying to like, your mind was trying to be like, let me figure this out. And then I was just like surrender. And the faster you can surrender, like you actually open space for what wants to come through. And I think, was it for you? I think you got like a huge download, like it all came through at once.
Yeah. Like I was like forcing, trying to meditate, trying to self-coach. And you were like, stop doing that. And then I just kind of like let it be and stopped trying to force it. And then one morning, early in the morning, I just was like kind of moving around and things just started like coming to me around like what was different about my clients. Why? Because I was so frustrated that I would work with people and get them huge increases or new jobs. And they would talk about how they feel better than ever and believe their husband loves them now. And I was like, that's not what we worked on. Only like, you need to talk about the money. So I was trying to figure out like, why are they doing this? So like all of that was kind of coming to me of like, this is what it's all about. It's like the worthiness, like not just having a career that's worthy of them because they're so talented, but a career that like they feel worthy of having also. Like it's just like it goes together, and all of that just kind of came to me. And then I had like the biggest dance party ever. It was like so just enlightening, and it felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulder. And I will say I'm a very like, let's follow the rules person. Like I need to go through the whole program. I need to do this and that. And this is the first thing I've ever done. And I've done a lot of things where like, that's not true. Like I haven't even done everything in the portal.
Yeah.
Like I've done the things that made sense. And I think you said that in one of the early videos.
I think I say that in the start here.
Yeah,
I'm like,
to like hop around.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I did that. And so I would like sometimes go in and just do a somatic practice from one of the coaching calls. Sometimes I would watch a coaching call. Sometimes I would go just watch one of the modules. And I love the like the worksheets that you have in there, because sometimes I didn't want to watch a video, but the worksheets are like intuitive enough, like they're clear enough. I could just take that and use that and fill that out, and that would be helpful. And so it just was really eye-opening to me that I could have such a big shift in who I am and in my business without doing like all of the things A to Z.
Yeah. The process, right? And I think it is like, there are times when strategy in mind is really important. Listen, I'm a rising Capricorn. I'm a big fan, right? But when we're working at the level of the soul, which is what alignment is, like we are guided, right? It's sort of just like what has to happen. And I think I might say in the start here to treat it almost like it's an oracle deck, like just feel, what am I feeling called to pull today? And you will be guided to the training you need or the worksheet you need or whatever the thing is. And then, you know, sometimes people come to coaching calls and then I'll direct them to like, this training would be great or whatever the thing is. And so I think there's no right or wrong way to do a program, but I love that that has just been your experience of like this quantum up level. And you're just like, oh yeah, just from like, I just went in and I just touched the things that I just was, it sounds like it was quite intuitive for you, right? Like this is just where my desire is today.
And I think the way that you lead the space, like allowed me to feel like I wasn't going to be missing anything doing that. I think generally I feel like I'm going to be missing something or there's a step that I need to consider. And this work is so different because it's really teaching you to like figure out your own steps.
Yeah.
And so like, and you lead so strongly from that space that like you introduced me to things like the archetypes and all these things that I had never really heard of. Now I have like a deck. I just play around with it. It's just fun. But like just having that like freedom of play with who you are and not taking it too seriously, I think allows things to emerge that wouldn't otherwise when you're trying to force it like I was.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love it because I actually have an email in the launch sequence coming up about how I think so much of what creates success is like the thought I teach you guys when you come in is like the world is a playground and everything is for me.
Yeah, I love that.
And it's like, I have an entire email talking about like when we set it up as a playground, that's, I think like what creates these like quantum watershed. Like I can't like your financial results. I had a girlfriend who like, she came in, she's felt stuck at like 400,000 for like 2.5 years now. And she was in a container where it was like, these are the step-by-step, whatever. Right. And then she like joined the accelerator and she did 200,000 in like the first 2 months. She like messaged me. I'm like, oh my gosh. Right. Oh my gosh. I just love it. Like when you follow your own guidance, which I think for so many of us, we just haven't been taught as a thing.
No, we're taught to do the opposite.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. So we've heard about your amazing financial results. We have heard about like how you're feeling, the type of clients you're attracting. Is there anything else you would want to share with people? Like maybe like sort of unexpected byproducts or things that have changed in, I don't know, your life, or like what feels different from having done this work?
I mean, I think it's like we said, it's it's not me at work and me at home anymore.
Yeah.
I'm now kind of fully expressing myself in both spaces. And so I think that that just provides some peace, like of not trying to fit into a mold or fit into a box or trying to do things the right way. And I wish I had a way to really like impart what that's like, because when you feel like there is a right way, you can hear people say there's not, and then you're like, okay, whatever. Like,
Yeah, but
at least
really,
I
what's
did.
the
I
right
just
way?
dismissed it and was like, okay. So, but it really is just like a freedom, I think, to trust yourself. I think that's the biggest thing is I trust myself so much more.
Yeah.
And I ask myself, like, is this really me?
Yeah.
And I have like, and I check in with my body more. And I think because of just like my background, I'm not really good at connecting with my body very naturally. I have to kind of
Yeah.
like intentionally do it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm kind of disconnected. And so I do that a lot more. I let that guide me more. Like when I'm having kind of a resistance of like, you shouldn't do this, or this isn't what other people would do, I counter that myself. And I don't have to like look to other people for the right way to do things anymore. Like I take advisors in, of course,
Yeah.
but I ultimately take responsibility and I decide on my own what I want it to look like based on how I feel and what I think is best. And I don't think
Yes.
that's something I was able to do with so much freedom before. I know that I wasn't. I'm also like, my eyes are just so much more open to ways to connect with yourself and to help others. I think it makes me a better coach because I'm exposed to all of the different things that you teach us. So I just think it has a ripple effect to everything.
I love that. Oh, okay. I am just so grateful that you followed the urge to join, that you stepped over the lines. And again, I can't wait for, if anyone is like listening to this on audio, you've got to go check Instagram to see her like office redesign, but like you'll feel into like everything we've discussed today is just like, you've had such an amazing transformation. And I would say it's like, it's an integration, right? Of all parts of the self. It's like, you are who you are, who you are. And when we can be fully integrated and not someone different in our work, like we're the freedom. It's like liberation. It feels like, yeah,
it does. And I love too how you talk about evolution and how that can always be changing and shifting. Because I think that also for people like me, it gives you permission to be who you are in that moment and not always have to have everything figured out, or to think that if you change at all, like if let's say your color scheme changes, or you're feeling drawn to something else, you don't feel like that's wrong, or you still have to go back to the box, because then you're just always in a box, right? Whether you created it or someone else. And so I love that you like touch on that too, because that also I think just helps with the self-trust that whatever happens, whatever your body is feeling, whatever it is that you're feeling called to do, like that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I've thought about this a lot actually, because I do believe there are some people where their frequency, it's going to be, once they come into alignment, there won't be a massive shift. But I do think there's other people, and I think I'm one of them, where like things the aesthetics are going to change a lot as I grow. And I realized like when I was doing some of the work of icons that I really look up to, it's like Bjork and David Bowie. And those are like, when you look at those people, it's like they have just continually shifted and like they're shapeshifters. They're always changing over time. And I love like you felt into like you might have like an energetic signature that is going to have really, I don't know, as you grow, there might be big changes that you like sort of shapeshift into. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, isn't that just authenticity though?
Yeah.
Like letting yourself be like whatever you are.
Yeah.
And like giving yourself like making it safe for yourself to become whoever you're going to become too.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and I think it is like, I really think this work of Brand Alchemy, it's like holding, because for so many people, what gets them stuck and not changing is they're solidified in an identity. And I think what allows me to change so quickly is like, I hold my identity like so lightly, like I'm just cupping a butterfly. Right. And it's like the moment I'm guided to go somewhere, I'm like, okay, like I sort of think of my human vessel as like, I'm in co-creation with the universe. And when they guide me, like when I'm guided to go somewhere else, I'm like, okay, guess we're going this way now. And I just think as long as we're following our alignment and our nudges, like we just can't go wrong.
Yeah, I agree.
So good. Okay. All right. Everyone's going to want to know where to come follow you, where to come see all your fabulousness. Is there anything else you would want to share with someone who's thinking about coming into the program, feeling their way into it, like this would be a good fit for you or it wouldn't, or a question they could ask themselves?
Yeah, I guess I would be curious, why not? Right? Like if they really look at something other than just money, right? Everything costs money, but just like, why wouldn't they want to invest in themselves to even be like 1% more themselves than they are now? Like, what would be a reason not to do that? And I think it's easy to say when you've like gone on this journey, but I also think if you really think bigger than your business and think about what it would feel like to really be yourself, even if you don't know who that is yet, like the freedom you would get from that, how that would make you a better coach, a better parent, a better partner, a better all of the things, because you're being who you're really meant to be. It allows you to live up to your potential. It allows you to have a bigger impact. It allows you to feel good when you wake up in the morning. And so for when you balance that with the investment, it's really like a no-brainer, right? Like there's no chance someone's going to come in and get zero value. And so even if they're a little bit more themselves, like that's going to be worth it.
I love that. Yeah, I would say you've had a little bit more than a 1% shift, but
yeah. But I mean, that's how I would look at it. I'd be like, well, what if I don't have as big of a transformation as Melissa? That's how I would look at it outside looking.
Yeah. Well, and I think because there are some people, I think especially when people are super intuitively guided in, there's about to be like, it's like their soul is guiding them in. There's going to be like a big quantum thing. Whereas there might be some people that come in and it's more of like a layer by layer of like their mindset sort of unwinding. Yeah. And it's been really just fun to see people at all like different spectrums of it. And to see actually like Heather, I don't know, you're in the community, so you might have seen Heather around, but she's going to be like an Instagram feature this round. And she like just started her business last year. And I just was thinking about her. It's like, I've seen her go layer by layer. Your shift was like massive and like all at once. Like I was like, what's happening? Right. And with Heather, it's just so interesting because it's like, I started to notice her posture and her voice changed. And then like, I started to notice like she was wearing brighter colors. And then I started to notice there was this one day, cause I never said anything, but she had this tiny picture of like a flower, like that was her Zoom space. And it was so representative to me of like this, like smaller, like, be small, like just be right. And there was this one day she came onto the call and her Zoom space had changed. And I was like, oh, this feels like who you're becoming. Like, and it's just been so fun to watch. Like, I could almost think of it as like a time lapse of the caterpillar to the butterfly. Like every single week she came on for coaching, there was like another layer of her that was changing. And that's fucking beautiful too. Like, who cares if it happens in like a overnight thing like Melissa, or if it's like layer by layer, just enjoy the process.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's a journey either way, because even though mine seems really fast, it felt very painful. Like
yeah
like it felt longer than it was, and I had to remind myself it wasn't long, because when I was going through it, it felt like it was a challenge.
Yes,
but I really think it's going in with an open mind to what the program is, and to trust that that there's value in it, that it's going to like work for you. Because it's really you just like, there's nothing, how do I want to say it? There's nothing like you need that you don't have to be successful. Yeah. Like there's nothing that someone, like if they wanted to join, would be like, well, I don't have this, or this. It's like, you can come just as you are and watch the Start Here modules or the boxes that find or whatever it is, and you will have a change from just that.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, I love it. And then just follow your guidance wherever you feel guided to go.
Yes.
I love it so much. All right. So everyone's going to want to know, where can they connect with you? Where can they follow you? What are you selling? Just tell us all the things.
Okay. So I'm on LinkedIn just under my name. I'm also on Instagram at melissa.yourworthycareer. I host the podcast, Your Worthy Career. And then my website's yourworthycareer.com. So it's all very synergetic. You can reach out to me through any of those spaces and see what's going on in my world.
Yes. So whether you're listening and you're in those industries, or if you know anybody who wants a breath of fresh air within, what is it? Biotech and pharma, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Then send them to Melissa. She is the person you want to be working with. All right. I love it so much. Thank you so much for coming on today. And I'll see you on the internet.
Yes.
Bye.